I'd been taken up to Yamundi as a little boy. I'd visited the tree and I'd seen the tree that his name was on. My mother said something about, oh, this is where her brother was, the monument was. It's sort of an interesting thing to find that a tree has been put there for monument of someone, and even today it's still there, which is amazing. We started doing family trees some years ago, and I knew that my mother had a brother who was killed in the First World War. So in doing my research, I could not find a brother for her. So it took some time trying different other things. I found that my grandmother had a boy before she was married.
Frank Eric Colthup, on his birth certificate, he's actually named Eric Austin, with no father's name on the birth certificate at all.
Frank, or Eric, whichever way you want to call it, was born at the Lady Bowen Hospital in Brisbane, and apparently that was a hospital where unmarried mothers sent to have their children.
His mother, Emma Louise Austin, married his stepfather in 1902 when Frank was 8 years old, and he adopted him.
There was a rumour that Frank was the son of Albert, who married his mother later on. That's what we assumed, because he seemed to take over and he assumed his name, so I presume that was it. Apparently he enlisted in Toowoomba but had his address as Gilaka.
He was working as a stockman in Gilaka. Yes, it makes you wonder why he did enlist, because he would have had this good life out on a cattle station, out in the fresh air in peace and quiet. Why would you want to go into this melee? But then it was 1916. There was probably these recruitment drives on. There was this patriotic fervour. So
a lot of young fellows looked at it as a challenge, and we can go and do this sort of thing, and we're back next week after we've done it. But it doesn't work out that way. It's terrifying when you think about the number of people in his unit. It started off with 1,029 in his unit. Within a short period of time, from March to May, it ended up being 496. I write to say that the remains of your son, Private F.E. Colthup, were buried today in a little military cemetery behind our lines. He was killed by a shell last night near battalion headquarters. His death was instantaneous, so he suffered no pain. His personal effects are being forwarded onto you through the military channel.
Frank's belongings were on a ship that was torpedoed by a German submarine, along with 5,000 other men's belongings that had died, and it was the only ship on which they ever lost the personal belongings of those who had died. It is a compounded loss.
I would have liked to have known who he was, known him. People in those days didn't talk about all those things that happened. It wasn't the thing to do. You didn't talk about all those horrible things that happened during the war. It wasn't what was happened, and it's a shame that probably it wasn't talked about. Maybe we wouldn't have had the Second World War.